Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had an amazing Tuesday so far. I know we've got an amazing video lined up for you about a very, and I'm going to say very once more, underrated blockchain. And that, of course, is Algorand. Today, guys, we are going to be diving into Algorand, what I believe is one of the most underrated and underappreciated blockchains out there. When you look at a blockchain and what they were designed to do, Algorand has all its pieces in the right places. And we're going to be talking about it in this video. This is really going to be an overview of what Algorand is. We're going to be going into the founder, a little bit about the DApp ecosystem and all the things that are coming for Algorand and some of the amazing achievements that they have made to date. And I think you guys are really going to be interested in learning about this blockchain. We know what the current market action is doing. We know we're in a downtrend. And there's no better way to spend your time during these downward markets or these downward price action markets than to actually learn about the technology that you are looking to invest in on these dips. And Algorand is absolutely a blockchain that I'm going to be picking a lot more up. I have no affiliation with Algorand or their foundations. However, it's a blockchain that I've followed for a long time, not one that we've spoken about greatly on this channel. But we are going to start covering it more frequently, as I'm not only involved with Algorand in terms of being an investor, but also within its DeFi ecosystem that I think is, at the moment, very much undiscovered and has a long way to go. So this is going to be a very basic video, like I said. We're going to go into some really key features of Algorand. We're also going to be explaining basic things about it to give you guys out there that may be hearing about this blockchain for the first time or may have heard of it but don't really understand what it is and why it's such a competitor in the crypto space, a really good understanding and a kind of basic level of understanding of Algorand moving forwards, and also go into a little bit more complicated things, but nothing too complicated as it is a Tuesday evening for myself. So Algorand, the name derives from two words, algorithm and random. Two key components of Algorand, as Algorand uses algorithmic randomness to its full advantage as one of its key components to how the blockchain works. So what actually is Algorand? Well, Algorand is a layer 1 and a layer 2 smart contract blockchain. Very quickly, guys, because some people actually don't know what smart contracts are or still haven't got their head around them, I'll give a very brief explanation and then we will move on. And when I say layer 1 and layer 2, I'll also explain what I mean by that. So layer 1 is really the base level consensus, the base level protocol like Ethereum. And layer 2 would be something like Polygon, which is built on top of Ethereum, still uses the Ethereum chain to sort of secure everything, but takes things off chain and is a layer on top of Ethereum, hence layer 2, to kind of speed up some of the traffic and make transactions a lot cheaper in Ethereum's case, for example. So what is a smart contract? Smart contracts were born out of Bitcoin and its uselessness. That is a joke. Bitcoin isn't useless, but of course, as a blockchain, there are far more impressive out there. And I think many of these layer 1s are a lot more impressive than the likes of Bitcoin. Ethereum took the basic principles of the Bitcoin blockchain and added a layer of capability to it, spawning the smart contract. Like normal agreements, there is a criteria that must be met for the contract to be fulfilled. The big difference here is that it is stored on a blockchain and it is verifiable on a preferably immutable chain, which means all human error is removed. So Bitcoin is valuable mainly because it's trustable as a value accounting system, a shortfall we are now seeing in many of your fiat systems around the world. Ethereum and many other layer 1 smart contract blockchains like Algorand are valuable because not only do they have the trustable accounting system, but they also have an infinite number of possibilities waiting to be built on top of their blockchain using smart contracts. So you can really implement smart contracts in everything. That's why I think the blockchain space is still very small and in its infancy and has an awful long way to go. We have not seen all of the use cases for blockchain yet. In fact, we've seen very few of them. And in terms of people actually using blockchain for these applications that are applicable to, it's very much few and far between. So what does layer 1 mean? The base layer of a blockchain. So for example, and I've already told you the example with Ethereum and Polygon, Ethereum being layer 1, Polygon, because it's built on top of Ethereum, still utilizes the layer 1 chain, is essentially a layer 2. And it essentially takes volume and transactions off chain, but references the main chain less frequently than if you were having to reference the main chain to validate transactions on every single smart contract execution. And ALGORAND basically is both a layer 1 and 2. So they actually have layer 2 functionalities already built in. This is going to be, it's not really used that much at the moment because there's not a lot of volume on the ALGORAND chain. I think ALGORAND is very scalable. I think between 1,000, I think 40,000. I can't quite remember exactly where they're at. Their current TPS, as you can see here, is 11. Block time is 4.3. And if you look just how cheaply it is to use, and I know this firsthand as a user of their ecosystem, and into the future, guys, I'm going to be educating. You're going to get so much education on this channel that you're just not going to get anywhere else. And the reason being is because I am the real deal when it comes to blockchain. I use it daily. And I've used many, many layer 1s and layer 2s and everything in between within the crypto space. And that's ultimately why we created the channel, to educate others. Because when you look at crypto, it is, in my opinion, it's going to offer the most amount of value for investors over the long period of time. That's not financial advice, it's just my own opinion. The reason being is because it's just so early. It's very much in its infancy. Before we actually dive into exactly how ALGORAND works, I really want to talk to you about its founder, Silvio Micali. This guy is more than impressive. He is, in his field, a genius. He's had what would be the equivalent of a Nobel Prize in computer science awarded to him, which is the Turing Award. You know, when you're looking for somebody that is founding a project, this is a guy, this would be your dream head of a blockchain. This guy right here, Silvio. Very impressive credentials, and I'll just give you a brief introduction into them. We'll go into some of how ALGORAND works, some of the amazing things that they've actually done. I mean, they already run a country's central currency, digital currency, and we'll talk about that in regards to the Marshall Islands, and they have many, many talks. One reason that I'm such a fan of ALGORAND is because I honestly think that in terms of institutions looking for a blockchain to build upon, ALGORAND actually may be that. And we've seen this kind of vote of confidence with many of the CBDCs that they have sort of helped out with and partook in to date. So let's talk a little bit about Silvio. Silvio Micali is a Turing Award winner in computer science. It's really the equivalent to a Nobel Prize. He is also an IT professor at MIT for over 10 years. He also invented some fundamental features that are used within the cryptocurrency space today, such as zero knowledge proofs, which some of you may have heard of, and verifiable random functions. ALGORAND, I mean, it's in their name. Algorithm and randomness is where the name comes from. And randomness is a feature that they use very, very heavily because it brings a huge level of security to the blockchain. But we'll talk about that in just a second. Silvio had watched the cryptocurrency space evolve and looking at the time at other layer 1 protocols evolving. He then decided to build ALGORAND with the intention of making a better blockchain and solving Vitalik Buterin's trilemma that plagues all blockchains: scalability, security, and decentralization. So this is the trilemma. The trilemma that Vitalik essentially put into place was that when you have a blockchain, so we know Bitcoin is securable, it's arguably not scalable, and there is certainly an argument that it is decentralized. But when you put together a blockchain, usually there's a trade-off. So right now for Ethereum, it may have the security, but it may not have the scalability. That's why we have high gas fees. And the reason being is because Vitalik essentially said, look, you have to compromise one or the other. And there is definitely an element of this, but essentially when you've got scalability, security, and decentralization, ALGORAND claims to maintain all of these functions without many trade-offs among them. Also, a key point to remember here is ALGORAND was built to compete with the current leading institutions of finance and other sectors. This is a blockchain that's been built to build upon, and by Silvio, huge credibility. They also sponsor I believe a number. I think they actually have ALGORAND Foundation involved with MIT, of course, and they're also in talks with a lot of governments around the world. And you know, the reason being is because, again, when these big institutions look and are going to look into the future to put big money on top of blockchain technology, they're going to want to make sure they do it on a scalable, secure blockchain. And that's why I actually think that Ethereum hasn't seen as much institutional. It's seen a lot of institutional involvement, but as much as it potentially could have. Given, you know, some of the risk associated. You're not going to go and put billions and billions as a fund on top of Ethereum because it has been hacked quite frequently, or certainly some of the dApps that are built on top of it. and a number of other things have taken place. It's also very expensive to use, which of course Algorand isn't. Again, back to your 0.00, not even a cent to use, guys. And you can see why this is appealing, certainly in regards to cross-border payments, which we're going to get into in the moment, relating it to Algorand's partnership with the Marshall Islands. So how does Algorand actually work then, guys? Let's talk a little bit about it. Algorand runs on a proof-of-stake consensus, the mechanism used to produce blocks called pure proof of stake. Proof of stake is different to proof of work. Bitcoin is a proof of work blockchain which has come into the spotlight given its carbon footprint, maintaining and mining the blockchain. This issue is not present with Algorand as it is proof of stake, and instead of miners validating a block, which is potentially very energy efficient, inefficient, I should say, Algorand is actually carbon negative. So these guys have a negative carbon footprint, which I think is quite impressive. Algorand mints a block based on a randomness functionality. A node will be chosen at random. The more stake you have, the higher likelihood of being chosen. The reason being for this, if you think about 100 people and they each have one, well, the person that has two has a higher likelihood of winning. If everyone has a 1 in 100 chance and you have two of those 1 in 100 chances, than the rest. This makes Algorand very securable as attackers, due to the random functionality, don't know what part of the network to attack. Hence, and also back to the randomness, hence the name Algorand. This is so secure that the Marshall Islands, an island or a group of islands that use cross-border transactions frequently, as it is a big part of how business gets done over there, as a result of this, have decided to adopt a digital currency called the SOV. This, of course, is the Algorand white paper, guys. So I'll move on to some of the big things that these guys have got going on. And this is old news, by the way. Most people, everyone was crazy about the El Salvador sort of situation, but Algorand have already done things similar. Yes, ALGO isn't the actual native store of value that they're using as a legal tender, but it's a blockchain that's already running sort of digital currencies for countries. So the digital currency that they use over in the Marshall Islands is called SOV, which is powered by Algorand. The reason they chose to use Algorand is based on its highly secure and cost-effective carbon-neutral instant settlement, non-hard forking functionality. So you don't even need to hard fork Algorand, by the way. So the reason I actually wrote notes on this, I know a lot about Algorand, but there's always something I miss out whenever I talk about it. And you guys can probably hear in my voice just how excited this blockchain makes me. You know, we know what's happening with the cryptocurrency market currently. It's downtrending. This will end eventually. Markets don't just go up, they also go down. There's cycles within markets. And when they come back up and when blockchain is actually becoming adopted, yes, we know that people own it and buy it. I think Algorand stands a very good chance of doing very well. And it's currently, in my opinion, in comparison with the rest of the blockchain space, certainly if you look at the likes of Doge and a number of other things, even many of your other layer ones, it's very undervalued in my humble opinion. So let's move on. So no hard fork functionalities. Remember how excited everyone got over El Salvador? Algorand is extremely underrated, as I'm sure you guys can see. Algorand also has or is in talks with another 16 countries regarding CBDCs currently, and I'm sure there is more on the way. Algorand has two main companies that are working on Algorand success. Algorand Foundation, which is a non-for-profit, and Algorand Incorporated, which of course is a for-profit. These foundations are the main companies working on Algorand. They also have sponsored classes in some pretty prominent United States universities and elsewhere. Take a look at some tokenomics now, guys, because I know you guys, many of you are looking to invest in the cryptocurrency space. Remember, this is not financial advice, just what I'm looking at. Algorand currently has a market cap of $4.4 billion. Now, they have only really recently just got up with their DeFi ecosystem. It's funny, POLKADOT, Cardano, and Algorand all released smart contract functionalities around about the same time, and actually started getting building on and dApps deploying all around about the same time. And you can see they have a very small DeFi ecosystem. I am a investor in some of these projects. I use some of them within Algorand. I can show you guys into the future, and let me know in the comments if you'd like that, how to use some of the ecosystem, what wallets to use and everything in between. But if you look at the tokenomics, you can see that there is currently $4.4 trillion, billion, I should say. We wish trillion in terms of a market cap, which is quite small in regards to its competitors, and in regards to the actual overall crypto market, I think it's potentially underrated. So Algorand is the native, or Algorand Algo is the native coin, and it's used to make all transactions on the network. Algo is proof of stake, and it will be inflationary at least until 10 billion Algo is in circulation, which is a limit, and the maximum supply. Right now, there is 7.1 billion tokens in circulation. The Algo tokens can also be used to vote, used for governance on changes to the networks and upgrades. Obviously, the higher stake, the bigger the vote, theoretically. So you can see the potential and what I'm potentially looking at here. Now, this isn't a technical video. We are going to do some technical videos on Algorand, why I think it potentially could be a huge buy and what zones I'll be buying at. I am anticipating potentially further downside for the cryptocurrency market, given everything that's going on. For those of you that aren't already subscribed, make sure you do, because we do bring out daily updates where we actually look at everything to do with crypto and macroeconomics. We speak to very, very prominent, and we have them on the show from time to time, economic figures that know a lot more about the macroeconomy than I do, and how it may be affecting the cryptocurrency market. So that, guys, is really all I have for you in this video. I hope you've enjoyed this Algorand introduction, is what I'm going to call it. If you have, a like would also be appreciated. So as a comment, let me know if you guys would like me to cover more Algorand related content, as this is really just an introductory video and the first of many. We have mentioned Algorand, way well when it was, cents, not cents, sorry. Cents, way when it was back at your sort of 6 cents range. It's sort of 10x since then. It's come down. It did a lot better at the sort of highs of the market, but I do think Algorand will come back in a big way. And in actual fact, in terms of a blockchain, is very well positioned given the capabilities that it has. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video.